We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are conducting life-changing research that solves the problems of today. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. Now we're going to do things a little different. We are going to provide an honest look at Ole Miss athletics for the fan, by the fan, and of the fan. That is what we do. Hell be to me. I'm just kidding. Tune in for some Ole Miss sports news. We're going to give it to you straight. Yeah, right now. The POMcast starts now. It happens now. Holy cow. Listen to me. It's starting. Well, it's going to start right about now. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the POMcast. I'm your host on this magical mystery tour we call Ole Miss Fandom, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for joining us today. Before we get started, I do want to tell you about Travel and Cruise World. You can see it right there. Number to call is 1-800-330-7461. Again, that is 1-800-330-7461. What these guys are able to do is provide an on-the-ground local to help plan your vacation so you can understand this rapidly changing rule that is coming, rules that might hit each park and different things. They're going to be a local that's going to get this information first. They're going to help you out. And the best part is the parks are really the ones that pay them and you do not. They can get the same rates you can get on the website. So give Scott a call at Travel and Cruise World and plan your Central Florida vacation today. And trust me, it's worth it. As somebody that's been down here for close to a year at this point, doing the permanent vacation thing is the way to go. Whether I'm just hanging out in the pool, whether or not I'm going to a park, whether or not I'm going to the beaches, whatever you're doing, it's a pretty good setup. So coming to you live from the palatial Central Florida studio. Again, my name is Stephen Willis. Before we get started, if you're interested in watching the podcast or the POMcast, whatever, you can go to Twitter at the Stephen Willis or at the Rebel Walk. You can hit us up on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast, POMcast, or the Rebel Walk. Those are available on Facebook. On YouTube, Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe, hit the bell. You'll not only know that we're streaming, you'll know what we're streaming about, and that's, as you can see what we're doing, that's going to be much more relevant as this moves forward. We're also close to 100 subscribers. Thank you for that. As we push through and slowly grow each platform of the POMcast, it's pretty cool. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and of course we're on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all one word. Those are really the four platforms that, we go to, but we do have a podcast. We're on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and Pandora. If you're interested in listening to the show, if you're driving to Oxford and want something on the radio, we can do that. As you can tell this week, Monday night, early Tuesday morning, as you guys saw, the Beast of the East podcast. The first Beast of the East was released. Tonight, SEC After Dark with me and Corey Burton. We're going to be streaming at about 8:30, 8:45, somewhere in there. So you'll be able to catch that live if you want to. If not, it's going to be available on demand. We're going to do all the things we normally do. And also, we brought in, let's see, what's the Best of the West podcast with Kevin Bohannon and Jake Thomas. That's the Jake Thomas from the Tide Talk podcast and Kevin Bohannon from the Arkansas podcast. So it's going to be an Arkansas perspective with an Alabama perspective talking SEC West. So that should be really, really cool to go with our Beast of the East. It's talking East. We can drill down a little bit and add extra perspectives on top of the SEC After Dark with me, Corey, and soon to be Jeb. And then you have all the Ole Miss news from the Rebel Walk and the POMcast and Positively Ole Miss. Basically, as they say over at the J-Boy Show, this is the perfect opportunity for you to win the water cooler. So that's pretty cool. I mean, we're doing a lot of neat stuff, and I'm looking forward to extending that. And you can see the view count starting to tick up on the YouTube to go with the Facebook and the Twitter. Last month we did close to like 200 short of 50,000 views. I'm imagining we're going to pass that this month, and we're also on the podcast, even though we don't promote it at all. It is 3/4 of the way to a monthly record already. So we're doing big things. We're getting ready, and this is like the doldrums. This is list season. There will be no more Rebel rankings. It'll come back next list season. We're getting ready to do some absolute football, and we're building up our shows like the Best of the West, Beast of the East, SEC After Dark. The Rebel Walk recruiting show will be in there. Time to be determined. And once we get going, we'll do preview shows for Ole Miss football, each game, reaction shows. The working title currently is Monday Morning Quarterback. We'll probably release that so we can talk about the quarterback play and another perspective on Ole Miss sports. So the purpose of this channel is not about me. I mean, I'm on it because I own the equipment, but it's about multiple perspectives. That's something I think that we have sorely been lacking in the fan base for quite some time. The circle has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and now it's turning into a self-feeding circle. And this is an opportunity for you guys to be informed, to talk about what's going on, to hear what's going on, and to, not really waste your time. Because as you know, time is the most valuable resource we have. And with a free podcast, and we are also looking out for your time, it really can't get much better. There's probably going to be a 3 podcasts, SEC After Dark, Beast of the East, and Best of the West. That will be about an hour long. The POMcast will continue to be about 30 minutes long. And the previews in that will be about 10 to 20 minutes. So you can come in and out of them fairly quickly. So we're going to have something for everybody is the point. So thank you for tuning into that. All right. Now that we've done a little bit of house cleaning and we're getting ready for football season, and I can feel the excitement. You can actually feel the excitement building for college football as that desperation we need moment is hitting. The All-Star break is passed in baseball. The finals, I think they're over or close to over. I'm not really sure. Pretty much the only sporting event going on is baseball and soccer to get ready for football. And we're 2 weeks away from what would normally be the Hall of Fame game. And that would be the actual kickoff of football season. You can do preseason games. Although, how many are they doing this year? Is this the year they're supposed to change? If anybody knows that answer, put them in the comments below, please. Thank you. Just because I heard rumors of them dropping to 2 preseason games, that might change the Hall of Fame setup. And I haven't really been paying attention to that because mainly I've been following college football and the stories that from name, image, and likeness and the one-time transfer fee to the 12-team playoff and all of that stuff going on then, how that specifically will affect Ole Miss, because that's what I care about. That's what you care about. How will this affect Ole Miss? And basically what I've gotten to is the one-time transfer rule is going to be beneficial to Ole Miss because it allows you to honestly shoot for the stars in recruiting, sign 16, 17 players, and then raid G5 schools and FCS schools for players that fell between the cracks. You're going to see G5 teams not wanting to play Power 5 teams because Power 5 teams are going to raid their roster. You're going to see blue bloods with the problem of, do I continue to sign 25 4 and 5 stars? And if I do that, does that just mean extra work on me because I have to keep those guys happy because they can disappear? It's a fascinating season. I'm looking forward to that. those are some overarching questions going into it. But if you look at the questions with the football team, first of all, will Matt Corral eliminate the disaster games? That's, 2 games last year. That game was, they were fairly close to winning 7 or 8 ball games last year. They ended up 5-5. They could have easily have gone 7-3, if not for those disaster games. And you talk about expectation coming into the season. A 7-3 season and basic an all SEC season with a top 10 team in a bowl game, and you're talking about expectations this season. They were close. They were real close, and that was even with the disaster defense. But if those disaster games disappear, and you just play straight up against LSU and Arkansas last year, it's a completely different story right now. Also, that probably would be worse because there is some build and some hunger that these kids need to get to. And I foresee them making that jump, and this will be the season that propels them. Second, backup quarterback. How are they going to do this? Is it going to be a competition all through the year? I don't think they're going to name necessarily an number 2 or a number 3. I think it's going to be an or situation throughout the year. And it might be where if Ole Miss gets blowouts, Luke Altmaier is going to play in 4 games. So I expect him to be the number 2 in 4 games. But then I expect him to get that red shirt. Kincaid Dent, I think he's going to fill in the number 2 role the rest of the games, if nothing disastrous happens. I think the spring game is an aberration. I think we're a tempo offense, and you can't really run a tempo offense in a scrimmage type setting. So the things that are going to be wide open on Saturday might not be wide open in a scrimmage, because not only with familiarity and with the controlled aspect of a scrimmage, the teaching that goes on between plays, it's naturally going to slow it down. And we are not going to be as effective with it slowed down. So don't overly look into the spring game, especially when all the receivers that we had were in non-contact jerseys and none of the running backs on the roster played. We picked up walk-ons for that game. Do not look at the spring game. It's an exercise in folly, and it was designed to basically lead astray coaches that are watching this because it's on TV. Everybody can see that game was recorded probably 7 or 8 times. The one that might not have is Alabama, and they probably did too. So they figured out how to record all that stuff. And the reason I know that is because I used to record all that stuff. Of all the teams we played, I would record that and have it basically put up in case it was needed. That was what I did. If I'm doing that in 2006, they're doing that in 2021, 15 years later. So just be aware of what's going on there. Also, I want to see a step. And the question is, can the defense make a step? And I look to, Jake Springer. I look to Otis Reese getting a full season where he gets to practice during spring and fall and the full gambit of information. I look at Chance Campbell at linebacker. I look at Mark Robinson at linebacker to go with Lakia Henry and Momo Sanogo. Defensive line, Isaiah Aiton, Jamon Gordon, Tawan Malone. You can see a spine developing in that defense. And I hate to use the term that, that's mainly a soccer thing, but it's absolutely a spine up the middle. And they want to be tough up the middle. So you bring in a former top 50 recruit. You bring in an all-conference American player to play on the basically box defenders of the defensive backfield. You go get a honorable mention all Big Ten selection. You go get a top 100 player in this recruiting class and the top 2 defensive linemen in JUCO. And all of a sudden you have got a spine developing. Now, when dealing with JUCOs, understand it's going to take time. It helps that they were here for the spring, so that helps with the game speed. But it's normally game 6, game 7 that they actually click in. So don't expect too much too soon, but it's building for later in the year. This is a team that can make a run towards the end of the season. And then you got like MJ Garrett and I can't remember his name, but it is a couple of 6'2", 6'3" corners on the outside. Defensively, personnel-wise, you can actually see where we're going. You can see the build. Now, whether they develop or not, I do not know. Nobody knows. But you can see the tools. You can see what they bring. This length on the outside, a spine built down the middle to stop the run, box players on safeties on either side that are very physical, very good players. You can see that. It's readily apparent. So I expect them to flash at times during this season. Absolutely. I expect them to make plays. And as the season goes on, I expect that defense to improve and improve and improve. Because just like last year when they were vastly undermanned, personnel-wise, they didn't have the film to look at. They didn't have a spring. They didn't have a fall camp. All the stuff, the crutches that new coaches are on, they did not have it. And then you open up with Kyle Trask. And then you get Alabama in game 3. And then you get Kentucky's weird running game in game 2. And all of a sudden the defense is just exposed. And everybody's like, what is going on with these guys? Are they doing anything? No. Coaches are notoriously slow decision makers. And the things that they were using to make that decision got taken away. So it all came down to adapting. So there were personnel and players that were not in the right spot and things going on. And by the time they got to the point where they figured out what was going on, defense got better. Now the defense still had hiccups and still had some problems. And there's some baseline problems with what's going on. But the defense got better. And then by the end of the year, the Indiana game, they were actually fairly good. They ran out of gas. They didn't have many players. But it was an opportunity to see them grow as a team, and that was pretty cool. But those are the main questions going into the season. When we come back from the short break, I'm going to tell you Disney's replacement for the Fast Pass, how that is going to work. I do not know when it's going to be implemented, but I'll explain to you basically what it is and what they are doing. So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll handle that. So stick around. All right. Welcome back. Before we get started, I do want to tell you to go over to therebelwalk.com. Evelyn and her team do a fantastic job. They provide a subscriber level experience for no money. All it costs you is your time, and boy, oh boy, is it worth it. They have experts for each and every major sport, and they just produce content all the way down there. The recruiting stuff is growing. It's fantastic what they are doing, and like I said, it doesn't cost you any money. So head over to therebelwalk.com for more information. That is therebelwalk.com. And I'm going to give you a couple minutes back today because I know how busy you are, but I do want to tell you about the solution at Disney is starting to leak out for the replacement of the Fast Pass system. Now, the reservation system for parks is not going away. That is not changing. So the number of people allowed in are going to be less and less. So it's still busy. Trust me, whenever you go in there. I was there Sunday. There's still a ton of people inside. But the way this is going to work is, let's take Pirates of the Caribbean. And you want to ride that. You can buy a fast pass for that ride that is going to range between $8 and $15 to skip the line for that ride. And, you know, if in peak visitor times when it's really busy, they're going to bump the price up. That is what they're going to do. But the way it appears to me and the way it was explained to me is this is likely going to be a good thing because it's going to shorten the fast pass line even more. So whenever you do that, the experience for that ride is going to be much quicker. Now, they're like, okay, that seems weird. What are they going to do for the standby line? Well, they wouldn't be doing this if they weren't going to change the standby line as well. They are going to a complete virtual queue for all the rides, it looks like. And basically like Rise of the Resistance at Hollywood Studios, if you've done that, you'll understand what a virtual queue is like. You get an hour to come back thing. Real similar to how the fast passes used to work. And then you go through the queue situation and there's just less people waiting in line. Now the benefit of this is the fact that there is less waiting in line and actually more time to do the park. Now that could be a bad thing because people with impulse problems are probably going to matriculate to stores and do things like that. But for somebody that wants to go, it leaves you an opportunity to do more because you can actually plan those segments and do other stuff like micro plan it a little bit later on. So if you wanted to go spend a little bit of time in Frontierland, you might have an extra 15 minutes to do that because otherwise you would have been standing in line. So I think it's going to be really cool. Now, granted, with the COVID situation, this is a response to that. This is them trying to figure out a way to make more money. And in their cynical way, if you're not standing in line, their idea is to get you in a gift shop to where you can buy a $70 t-shirt and do all that. Or either way, they don't want you standing in line because they want you milling about the park. And it's interesting. If you understand the cynicism there, you can plan it around that. You can plan your vacation around that cynicism and just understand that this whole thing, it means you're going to stand in line less. If you go in there, it's like, okay, just plan on $30 extra per park. You can hit, just like you did the fast passes, it's going to be even quicker. And then you can virtual queue the other rides and plan through and go through and have fun in each of the locations. Now, I have not been to Magic Kingdom this year. Full disclosure, I have not been to Universal this year. Those are the two parks I have not gone to. But I'm interested to see what Disney does in this. Now, a lot of people think the Fast Pass situation should be handled like the Express Pass at Universal, to where you can just go in there, spend $90, get into the express lane, and go. And at a whole, I like that. But I like the fact that you can pick and choose what you're going to do with, and the line's going to be super quicker. So like Seven Dwarfs Mine Train or Flight of Passage or Rise of the Resistance, you can do this super fast pass thing, get them out of the way instead of waiting in a line, because these are going to be the bottleneck rides for the parks. And then you can get onto the stuff that's more manageable. And in the end, you're looking at a 4 or 5 hour trip to a park instead of an 8-hour trip. And I think that's going to be beneficial because, like I said on this show over and over, time is the most important thing. So, all right. I'm going to give you a few minutes back today. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to me ramble on and on about Disney. But remember, Travel and Cruise World, and they're right down below. So give Scott a call. I'll tell you what's going on. Because rules are changing. The governor is down here is not changing too much. He's basically signed executive orders that local municipalities can't do lockdowns anymore, so don't worry about that. But you might have a situation where masks get required, it doesn't get required. At Hollywood Studio, they were starting to herd people together and doing the pre-ride shows, which means we are pretty much close to a full go. And I figure once they announce the Fast Pass rules for Disney World and whatever they're doing, that's going to be full go what it's going to be. I wouldn't expect too much changing after that. So anyway, I'm Stephen Willis. This has been the POMcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow we'll be back with more Ole Miss news. We'll talk about questions. We'll talk about the defense. The defense is fascinating to me. We'll talk about the quarterback. We'll talk about the offensive line. We'll do all kinds of stuff tomorrow. Tonight, SEC After Dark, me and Corey Burton, we're going to go around the Southeastern Conference and talk about some storylines that are interesting. And other than that, tomorrow, maybe, Rebel Walk Recruiting Show with Leanne Herring. I'm saying maybe at this point. I don't know what is going to happen with it. So, all right. Anyway, everybody have a good day. And of course, hotty toddy.